Hi, this is Enrique Vega, also known as Kike, and I'm bringing you the Marsi Chandelier Part 2. We're going to be going into pneumatic hot forging and forge welding in this video. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll start off here by taking a 1-inch square bar and forging a leaf shape out of it. When you first start forging the hot bar, what I do is I take and the very tip end, I do a very tight forging to bring a tip on the end of it. Then, while I still have the same heat, I go and do a tapering effect to create the stem of the piece. After forging this section out, which takes a little while, I come back and take another heat and actually forge out the leaf sections. This is a fullering effect, which basically the idea here is to take and push the metal to either side and not elongate it. And that's what is being done here on this 4B nasal hammer. Here, this is pretty much the effect that you get from it. Now the next step is going to be to take another heat and come back and using a couple of tools here, I'm setting in the center vein of the leaf and basically setting it down into a V block. And at the same time, I'm coming back and just slightly pushing over the outside of the leaf to give a little bit of form. Now that's as far as I go with it over on the nasal hammer. So the next step here is going to be to take it, reheat again, and then take a nice natural gradual form to the leaf to give it a little bit of life to it. And this is accomplished on the front side, working on both sides to give it a little bit of a take. And then on the opposite side, I turn it over and push the very tip of the leaf over. And that gives us a very nice looking natural leaf. You realize these are very large leaves. They're about a 4-inch width on them, and that's all drawn out from that 1-inch bar. So after doing that, we come back and take a final heat to actually cut the leaves off. I could use a cut-off saw, but then you'd have to wait for the material to cool down. And since I'm working these 5-foot bars and continuing to make all the leaves for the chandelier, I decided to cut them hot. And with this tool here, basically you cut almost all the way through. Then you turn it over and you come back with another tooling that you wouldn't think would cut, but actually it's a lot shorter so that when you come down and beat on it, it doesn't, by accident, if you strike too hard, it doesn't actually hit your top and bottom dies and damage them. So you get a fairly nice cut from this. Now, once we take and we forge all of the leaves for this, then it's time to bring them together in sets of 3. You need to make a scarf at the ends of the pieces that are going to be forge welded. The scarf requires you to take the material and taper it down to a point and then taper it on either side, leaving a center high mark on it. That way, when you actually do the weld, it'll push all the scale and everything away. But what I do before I do anything else is I actually MIG weld. And it's not a complete MIG weld, it's just a little tack that I put on these pieces to check them into place. It allows for the proper placement of each of the leaves. And it still allows me to do the forge welds, which, as you will see, actually creates a very beautiful transition. You can see the tacks here. And this is what it looks like afterwards. There's really nothing that you can do in regular welding, modern welding techniques to make it look as natural as a forge weld when you're bringing in leaves together as I'm doing in this project here. So once they're tacked together, we go in and bring up a coal forge, really good heat on the pieces, get the heat to saturate the material. And before we actually bring it up to the welding temperatures, I use a little bit of flux, and it's not a lot, but basically the flux does a coating over the steel to prevent oxidation, because an oxide, as the material gets hot, it oxidizes, and it'll prevent the weld from actually taking place. Over time, once you reach that bright yellow heat, the material is ready to be forge welded. Now you only have maybe a maximum 10 seconds, 10-15 seconds that you can actually do a bond between the two pieces, and you have to work very quickly, fast hammer blows, and then once the material cools down beyond that welding temperature, you bring it up again, and do continued forge welding after several heats. Sometimes I'll take maybe 3 heats to do the complete piece. The first heat is the one that actually does the forge welding. The other heats are done to move the material and get the nice transitions that look really well on this piece. The next step will be to weld leaf sets to the preformed chandelier arms that are forged from steel tubing. If you haven't seen part 1 of the Marsi chandelier, please go to the podcast section of enrique.artmetal.com. Thanks for watching.